All right, so an arithmetic sequence has a common difference of 10 and 6 terms 52. Find the 15th term. So because they say arithmetic sequence, it's going to be important because later on we'll do a similar type of question, but they'll change the type of sequence, and we'll have to then change and adjust our formula. But right now we know only arithmetic sequences, and they are of the form a sub n is equal to a sub 1, which is your first term, plus then n minus 1 times d. Okay? They give us enough information throughout the problem to find everything we need here. Okay? They say that you have a common difference of 10. What is 10 in this formula down here? Is it this? Is it that? Is it that? Or is it that? It is D. Okay? So I'm going to replace the D with 10. Okay? Now, it then says the sixth term is 52. So is means equals, right? Okay? So what is this 6 referring to? That's n. That's the position in the list. And as we talked yesterday and the day before, okay, this is a sub 1, this is a sub 2, this is a sub 3, dot, dot, dot. This is a sub n. Okay, so n represents the position you are in the list. That n corresponds to the 3 or the 2 or the 1. So that's the position. So when it says a sub n, or sorry, when it says the sixth term is 52, so n is 6. So I'll go 6 minus 1 there. Okay, now, okay, the sixth term, okay, if I'm finding the sixth term, so a sub 6 is 52 is what we're saying here. Does that make sense? Okay, and right now I'm developing a rule using n being 6, so this is the sixth term. So a sub n then has to be 52. Does that kind of make sense? And now I don't know A1. When I plug that information in, okay, so I'm saying 52, which is the sixth term, is found by or is equal to whatever my first term is, a sub 1, plus then n minus 1 times d. And d in this case is 10 and n is 6. So when I do that, I get 52 is equal to A1 plus, this turns into 50, right? So what's A1 then? Is A1 2? Okay. And to write a formula, an explicit formula for a sub n, all you need is your first term and you need your common difference. So then when I want a sub n, I'm going to say it's A1 plus then n minus 1 times d. The nth term, a sub n, is found then by taking 2 plus then n minus 1 times 10. For? What's the question? Favorite 80s movie? I'm trying to think of movies that were made in the 80s. Can I Google like a list of 80s movies? I just don't know the dates of them. Was E.T. made in 1980s? You ever watch E.T.? Does it get better than that? Shut up. I hate you. Shut up. What was 82? E.T.? All right, let's do it.
What is your favorite 80s movie?
E.T. from 1982.
Good choice.
It was 1982, right? All right. All right, so just like you could leave, like I wouldn't have a problem. I don't know what Math Excel is going to do in a question like this. It would probably accept that, or maybe if it doesn't, it'll tell you it's not simplified. So I just got to distribute the 10 through, and then combine like terms. So it's going to be negative 10 and 2 is negative 8 plus 10n. And now we have a formula to find the n term. So all I want to do here, I want to check this. Once you create what you think is your formula, check it with the information that you have. They told you the sixth term had to be what? 52. If I put an n is 6 in this case, I put 6 in, do I get 52 back? Does that make sense? Okay. So now the end question is actually find the 15th term. So that means take a sub 15 would be negative 8 plus 10 times 15. So it's 150 minus 8, which would be 142. Does that make sense? Where were you stuck at? Right here? Want to start over? Do another one? What thing? Oh, here? I was just recording because at this point that we were given the common difference was 10, right? We were, and from that, and we're told the sixth value, the sixth term was 52. So from that knowledge of replacing D with 10, N with 6, and the sixth term, which is A sub 6, which we just wrote as A sub N, was 52, I can go through and solve that for A sub 1, right? And it gives me A sub 1 was 2. I just then brought down and reminded myself, well, the common difference was 10. And I wrote that because those are the two things you need for every arithmetic sequence. Those are once you have those, you've captured those two things, you can plug them in right there and right there to get your formula, your explicit formula for an arithmetic sequence. What if I tell you that okay, let's start with this question. The fifth term of an arithmetic sequence is 10. Okay, so if I go out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that term is 10. Okay. And it says the 16th term is 32. Okay. We should be able to determine what the 1000th term is. If they tell you that your sequence is arithmetic, you only need 2 of the terms in their positions to tell you what any term is. Okay, so that's what we're trying to get at here. Okay, so we have a formula that says a sub n is equal to a sub 1 plus then n minus 1 times d, right? Okay. Now, remember, a sub n is a term that is in the list. So do I know a term that is in the list? That's an a sub n, right? Does that make sense? So I'm going to put 10 right here. Okay. So a sub n is a notation to tell you a specific value in the list. And the n tells you where at in the list, right? So this would be 5 minus 1, because 10 is the 5th term, right? Does that make sense to everybody? Now, I don't know the common difference because I don't know, I could do some trial and error, and I use some small enough values here that trial and error could probably work if you had the time. But of the things in my formula that I don't know are just a sub 1. They tell me a sub n, and they tell me, I'm sorry, I don't know a sub 1, I don't know d, okay? But they tell me a sub n, they tell me the 5th term is 10, and if it's the 5th term, then they're telling me n. Does that make sense to everybody? You got 2 variables here that you do not know. Okay? So the way that we fix that is that we say, this is the 16th term. Okay, so again, using a sub n equals a sub 1 plus now n minus 1 times d, a sub n, that is the object that is in the 16th spot. So 32 is equal to a sub 1 plus n. N is the 16th spot here, so 16 minus 1 times d. So be okay with that. Now in both those, so the way that we have this, we have now 2 equations with the exact same 2 variables, a1 and d, that are unknown. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this one as 10 equals a1 plus 4d. Okay? This one will say 32 is equal to a1 plus 15d. Can you solve one of those for a1? Let's solve this one. I think this one will be a little bit easier. Let's solve that one for a1. Doesn't that mean 10 minus 4d is equal to a1? Is a1 over here? Let's replace a1 with 10 minus 4d. Okay. So if I go 32, okay, minus the 10 gives me 22, right? And this is going to give me 11 d's, correct? Does that make sense? So what would d equal then? D was 2. So d represents my common difference, right? Now that I know d, I can actually come back up into, and it doesn't matter which formula you do this to, you can either come back up into that equation, or you come back up into that one and plug in d. So I'm going to go back into this first one. 10 equals, and actually, it might make more sense to plug into this one. If I go 10 minus 4 times d, that gives me a1. What's 10 minus 4 times RD was 2. What's A1 got to be then? 2. So just like the last problem, okay, I separated with a semicolon last time. If I want to find a formula, A sub n is equal to A sub 1 plus n minus 1 times D, my rule for the nth term is A1, which is R2, plus then n minus 1 times D of 2 again. And if you want to, you can simplify that. So A sub n is equal to 2. It'll be plus 2n minus 2. So A sub n is equal to 2n when things cancel out, right? So what's that mean? That means if n is 1, that should be 2, right? If n is 2, that should be 4. If n is 3, that should be 6. That should be 8. Is the common difference 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, okay? If I get all the way to the 16th term, 2 times 16 would give me that 32, right? So we're seeing that the rule that we generated off of those two numbers and those two respective positions can generate this formula. So when it asks me what's the 1,000th term, what's the 1,000th term of that sequence there? 2,000. Okay. Huh? You knew that already? Good. Yeah, good. Did you get a haircut? Did you? Nah, I need one. Nah. Looks dirty. No, I never said that.